Hello, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a time start delay. So if you wanted to add a delay before the next game, this can be used for that. We will add spectating in part 2, but for part 1 we're only going to get the first half of it done. This is what we'll be doing in part 1. The part that is circled red is what we'll not be doing, which we'll be doing in part 2. Just for your information, part 2 is spectating. Part 1 is just getting the basics done for the start. Part 2 is only if you want to add spectating to your game. Alright, so first we're going to make our reset button. So obviously we're going to need a button. We're going to configure the circuit board. Rename it up here in the new name to reset button. We're also going to detach it from the object. And now you have your reset button right here. Next thing we'll need is an int variable. So we're going to search int variable. We're going to just pop it down. We're going to get wire. We're going to wire pressed to the input on the int variable. I'm going to move mine over a bit and make it organize it a bit. Recommended to organize your circuit so it's easier to find things in the mine away from the button so I can have more room to place circuits. We're going to configure the int variable and rename it to time start delay. Once you've renamed it, you're going to want sync, so it's synced for everyone in the instance. Next, what we're going to need is a time gate universal seconds. We're going to spawn it in underneath the reset button circuit board. We're also going to need a add chip. We're going to wire the value to the top input of add. I'm going to organize mine, move it down a bit. You're going to want to configure the bottom input value to how much time you want between each game. So for me, I'm just going to do 10. Once you have that, we're going to add the sum to the value up here, and then you have your reset button. Now obviously your reset button isn't going to be a button. Once your game has ended, you want to either connect it to an event receiver or anything that resets the value. If you don't reset the value after a game has ended, then it will not work. For now, we're just going to use a button. I'm going to configure the button, change the message on it to reset, and then change the material and color. Put the material and color whatever you want. I'm gonna put mine in the brightest red, I know, on sand, and then we have our reset button. Next, you're gonna want to spawn in another button. This is gonna be your start button. So we're just gonna configure it, add the message start, change the material and color, do sand on the brightest green, I know. We're also going to configure the button circuit board. We're going to rename it to start button, submit it. We're also going to put it in detached. What we're going to do next, we're going to spawn in the circuits we are going to need. We are going to need another time gate universal seconds, so we're just going to clone this one over and put it up here. We are also going to need this time start delay variable again. We are going to need a greater and equal. We're just going to set that up here. We are also going to need a less than. We're going to need an if chip, a toString, and a string format. First, we're going to get the time gate universal seconds and then just set it underneath our buttons. We're also going to need our variables, so we're just going to grab that and place it underneath there as well. Alright, let's grab our greater or equal, then place it right here and then move it over to the right. Before we move any further, make sure you have your connect tool on. Here the A value to the universal seconds, the B value to the output value of time start delay. We're going to grab our less than to underneath greater or equal. We're going to be using this less than later, so we'll just leave it here for now. Also going to want to grab your subtract and put it underneath the less than. For the top value, you're going to use the time start delay. And for the bottom value, you're going to use the universal seconds. We're going to move our toString and our string format over here. We're going to wire the difference, the value of the toString, and the result to the bottom value of the string format. Now we're going to configure the format, string format. We're going to type whatever we want for the delay message. So for example, it can say wait at least, then the time, I have to wait before the game starts. So that's what I'm going to do. Wait at least. Now, this right here represents the value, and each time you add a value, it'll go up by 1. So say if you have 2 values, this will be indicated as value 0, this will be indicated as value 1, and so on and so forth. I've written my text, I'm going to click done, and then I'm going to close my menu. We're going to now want to move our if over here to on top of the greater or equal. We're going to wire the execution for the if to the execution for the pressed on the start button. Organize mine. Now the condition will be wired to the greater or equal. Now what we're going to do is get a player show subtitle. What this subtitle will do was display a message at the bottom of their screen. This will display the message that we wrote down here on the results. So what we're going to do is move our player show subtitle, connect the subtitle to the result of the string format, and the execution for the player show subtitle to the else of the if. We're going to need a chip called get all players. Should be a list. We're also going to need to get a list get count. You're going to want to connect the players list to the list on the list get count. You're going to want to connect the count to the A on the list than value. Now you're going to want to configure the B value, and this will be how many people you want in the room before the game starts. So I am just going to do 1 since I'm the only one in the room. Now what we're going to do is we're going to clone this if over. We're going to connect the condition to the list than result. We're going to connect the execution to the than on the other if. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to need another player show subtitle. We're going to clone this one, move it up here. We're going to connect the execution on the then on the if. Now for the subtitle, you're just going to want to configure it and then type whatever you want. For me, I'm just going to type not enough players. Once you're finished typing, you want to click done. Now for the else on this if, this is what's going to be connected to whatever you want your game to do. So if you want your game to give everyone a role, you want to send an event to everyone, add a role, then bam, you have that happen. And then once the game is ended, you want to reset it to find another event, and then you pretty much would be done with the gaming starting. I hope this has helped y'all learn a little bit more about CV2. If you need help with anything, please leave a comment down below or join the Empire Studios Discord for questions.